Now we'll kind of shift gears and we'll move into the Hall of Fame portion of our ceremony. Hall of Fame was actually started after I left here the first time, and I was fortunate enough to experience it when I came back, and Coach Kroll was inducted. And about 2 years back, I see how special this group of people, it's just a special group of people and how neat it is for our school. And it's pretty impressive when you walk down the athletic hallway and you see all the plaques there and the history on that wall. Tonight we're lucky enough to introduce five new recipients into that Hall of Fame. And the history that's entailed here is really incredible. And we cover a wide range of the spectrum of the school history. We have one contributor, one coach, and 3 athletes being inducted tonight. And we'll start out with our contributor. I'll ask Mr. Max Hutton to come forward for the introduction of Mr. Jerry Dovel.
Does it worry you all when somebody comes to the podium and brings their own bottle of water? Don't worry. If anybody who knows my public speaking experiences, I'm not long-winded. I also am a much better reader than I am a speaker, so I have jotted some notes down, and please bear with me as I go over these with you. But I received the invitation from Mr. Cubbage several weeks ago to be a part of tonight's program. I quickly responded about how much I would greatly enjoy introducing Jerry Dovel and sharing my opinion as to how fitting it is for him to receive this recognition and be selected as a member of our Hall of Fame. I am always happy to return to this campus where I spent 12 years to begin my career with the Shenandoah County school system. It is very, very surprising to me and maybe to others of you in the audience to realize that I was hired to teach and coach here 50 years ago this fall. And it was my honor and privilege to work with the students and staff of Stonewall Jackson High School for 8 years, from 1978 to 1986, as the principal of this school. As your principal, it was a pleasure to serve the community, and it was delightful to work with all the outstanding students and the wonderful staff that they had at that time. One of the most valuable aspects of this experience for me was having the opportunity to work side by side each day with Jerry Dovel. Mr. Dovel served as our assistant principal, and I could not have had a better individual to handle the numerous and various responsibilities attached to his position. He was my mentor. He provided me with counsel and advice, and he was a valuable resource to me. In the same vein, I could not measure all the valuable contributions and support he supplied to the faculty and students, with many of his efforts being done quietly, behind the scenes, and without recognition. His contributions added to the success of the outstanding athletic program that we enjoyed during that part of Stonewall's history. If you notice the championship banners on the wall, I believe you will find 8 different state championships won by our athletes and coaches from the fall of 1978 through the spring of 1986, highlighted, of course, by the 78-79 year, where we won 4 state championships in that same academic year. Jerry Dovel contributed to each of these accomplishments, as well as to the numerous district and regional championship teams. His contributions dealt with working with coaches and athletes and maintaining an athletic program for which our community could be proud. As chief disciplinarian of our school, Mr. Dovel maintained a certain expectation of behavior for all students, and particularly for those who represented our school in the public eye. As a valuable mentor to the staff, including coaches, his experience and expertise was often called upon. Faculty, staff, and students alike trusted Jerry to be a receptive sounding board regarding unusual or difficult situations. His common sense approach to dealing with issues was well received, and his recommendations provided valuable solutions. Jerry Dovel began his public education career at Stonewall Jackson High School in 1966 as a vocational education teacher. For the first 2 years, he worked at Stonewall in the ag department for half a day and spent the other half at Trippett Tech, developing both the carpentry and auto mechanics programs from scratch. For the next 7 years, he continued as an instructor in our ag department and was instrumental in developing it as one of the strongest departments in the valley, if not the state. In 1975, he was named the assistant principal at Stonewall, and from 1975 to 1978, he also served as our athletic director. He was the last individual in the Shenandoah County school system to serve in the dual capacity of assistant principal and athletic director at any of the 3 county high schools. He served as our only assistant principal for a total of 23 years. In 1998, he was named as a second assistant principal at Central High School, but had many different and varied responsibilities with that assignment. In addition to assuming these responsibilities, he did such things as serve as a project liaison for school renovations and work to reduce student truancy. He retired from Shenandoah County Public Schools in 2004 after completing 38 years of service. In conclusion, the contributions Jerry made to the success of our school and to the students who represented our school in both curricular and extracurricular events were immeasurable. It is easily understood and most deserving that he is receiving this special recognition tonight and is being recognized as a contributor to the success of our school and our students. I shared with you a few minutes ago that it was an honor and a privilege to serve as your principal some 40 years ago. Let me also share with you that it was also a privilege to kindle and develop a strong friendship with Jerry Dovel, and an honor to see that close friendship span almost 5 decades. Jerry, please come forward. Jerry, on behalf of the Hall of Fame Selection Committee and the many students and staff members upon which you had a positive influence, and on behalf of me personally, I want to express our sincere gratitude for your contributions and congratulate you as a member of our Hall of Fame.
Mr. Hutton is quite gracious. I think he is probably one of the best friends, and maybe he exaggerates a little bit, but it sounds like I did a lot of things. I did, and I've always enjoyed it. People don't like to hear history now. I'm going to give you a little history. I started here in '66. I became athletic director in '73, I believe. He has it written down. Anyway, when I came here, if you look in the lobby out here, the doors at the bottom of the steps, from that point on to what you see out here was added on to this building or to this campus. I don't take credit for it. I give credit to such persons as donators, donees, Boosters Club, faculty, staff, and a lot of wonderful parents. I wanted to do one other thing. Mr. Cubbage said I'd come like I am. I have my fishing shirt on and my work boots. Anyway, if any of you here are old enough to remember, and some of you are, you might not want to admit it, but you may remember, we did not allow any cell phones or hats in the building. I wore mine to tell you that I've learned something from the youth. I wore my hat. Anyway, In that time, you have a new gymnasium. I played one of my first varsity basketball games in this gymnasium over here. From coming to a little gymnasium in Luray, Page County, I thought I'd come to the end of the world. That was one magnificent gymnasium. And it was about, if I remember right, 30 feet longer than the one that I played on. Consequently, I ran out of breath. Anyway, I want to recognize the parents, the supporters for me. I think I was known as pretty strict, but most of the parents supported that and wanted that. Anyway, from this end here to this was built in my tenure. And again, I don't take credit, I give it to you guys as students and you parents and grandparents. Thank you, I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Our next inductee is earned the title of coach, and it's Coach Miss Margaret Fansler. Margaret's not able to be here with us tonight. She is joining us on, I'll call it Zoom. Coach Berner, tell me if it's something different. But, I'm one of those tweeners. Coach Berner's my age, but he's kept up with technology. I'm not a technology guru. But her daughter Allison is here tonight to receive the plaque for Margaret, and introducing and talking about Margaret will be Miss Kathy Gangwer and Miss Julie Wilkins.
When I was a senior here at Stonewall, we got new basketball coaches, Pam Hardy and Margaret Robinson, who later became Margaret Fansler. Those two were a great team, and they coached us into a great team. We were undefeated that year. Miss Robinson, later to be Miss Fansler, was only a few years older than us, but she had a beautiful, graceful demeanor about her that we all admired. She knew basketball and was so helpful to me personally, not only in basketball fundamentals. She stressed rebounding, I remember that, but she was so encouraging. She was a great example, and I later had the privilege of being her colleague, both of us teaching here at Stonewall for many years. What a class act she was. Since I only had her as a coach for 1 year, I didn't feel like I could do her justice. So Kathy Woodsell Gangwer, who was coached by her for 4 years and is also her longtime next door neighbor, will elaborate.
Well, I have a larger bottle than Max, and I'll probably need more. And I too prefer to read, but bear with me. It's a great honor to team up with Julie to recognize my coach, my teacher, my mentor, and my friend, Margaret Robinson Fansler. I hope I can do her justice as I reflect on some of her many accomplishments. Margaret, if the streaming is working and you're tuned in, hold on to your seat. Miss Robinson, as I came to know her, splashed down at Uncle Tom's Park as a Red Cross swimming instructor in the summer of 1969. Many students and athletes got to know her then before school even started. She arrived at Stonewall that fall, and she was so cool. She was sort of like a big sister who was all business. As Julie said, she was so graceful and accommodating. She was stylish, fun, young, dedicated, strict, and fully committed to her English classes and women's athletics. At that time, girls' programs usually took the back seat to boys' sports in many ways, but it didn't stop us. We were tough, and we just loved playing basketball. Nevertheless, as female athletes in the late 60s and 70s, we were fortunate to have Margaret and Coach Pam Hardy to guide us into a new era of women's sports, where women were finally starting to be noticed as serious athletes. Margaret's first stint at Stonewall Jackson ran from the fall of 1969 to the spring of 1974. She coached JV and varsity girls basketball for 5 highly successful seasons. In her first 3 years assisting at Stonewall, the varsity girls compiled a record of 29 wins and 3 losses. Overall, the winning percentages were high for both the JV and varsity teams. The Robinson-Hardy coaching team started the winning tradition for girls basketball at Stonewall. We packed the gym for home and away games and forged a sisterhood with our coaches and teammates that is still strong today. It was an unforgettable time to be an athlete at Stonewall Jackson High School. Through coaching and teaching, Margaret found time to meet a charming man named Jack Fansler. Many of you know him. And he immediately became a permanent fixture to all of our games and her lifelong fan. Only 5 more pages then. After taking time out to raise her family, Margaret returned to Stonewall in 1980, and she found herself coaching and teaching the second generation of generals. She coached 8th grade basketball teams for a number of years. And then she teamed up, I think simultaneously, she teamed up with Adina McInturf to coach academic groups such as VACE and the Scholastic Bowl. Ever the coach and teacher, of course, this proved to be a successful endeavor as well. She and Adina were named district co-coaches twice, and this academic competition became sanctioned by the Virginia High School League during this time, which was quite an accomplishment. And on a side note, Margaret continued to coach the academic teams 7 years after she had officially retired from the school system. The statistics blur with time, but the values we learned by her example remain to this day. I think we should note that during most of this time, Margaret assisted or co-coached. And in the beginning, I just found this out, she wasn't paid. She wasn't paid as an assistant for several years. There was no ego in her service. She did what she did to serve her students and players. All who played under this coach's direction learned more than the game. We learned many life lessons along the way. I know I speak for her students, her athletes, and peers when I say we are truly grateful for her contributions to this school, the athletes of this school, and the athletic program. We are grateful for her commitment to the countless students she taught, amazing English too, and her endless support of this community. It is with great admiration I proudly announce Coach Margaret Robinson Fansler as the newest inductee into the Stonewall Jackson High School Hall of Fame for coaching. Allison, will you join us?
I have no water, but I do have my new reading glasses, which is what happens when you hit those mid-40s. I'm Allison Fansler. I am a graduate in 1992, and I had a lot of good times here, but nothing that would put me anywhere on the Athletic Hall of Fame. And we were laughing before I came up with my parents. It would be a fun prank to pretend I was here to get some sort of athletic award. That is not where I thrived here, but it was a good time. I am Margaret and Jack's oldest daughter. I know my sisters Amy and Natalie are also watching tonight with my parents. And my job is to read my mom's remarks and not to talk too much. But if you know me, you know I usually have something to say. And so I thought I'd take a moment. And I know that she's listening and telling me to just move on with it, but I'm going to say my piece. I think we just want to thank you, everybody who has supported her and been with her on this journey. If you're a former student and you're wondering whether she remembers you, she does. She remembers all of you, every single one of you, and she remembers you with joy. I remember her classrooms filled with laughter and fun, and until it crossed some line. And you knew immediately when that line was crossed because you got the look. And if you had Miss Fansler, you knew the look. and I can tell you that it was perfected on me and all of the antics that I put her through when I was growing up. She was the coach for everything Kathy and Ms. Wilkins mentioned, but also for my sisters and me: recreation basketball, Odyssey of the Mind, talked about BASE, Student Council, National Honor Society, and more. I have spent this part of it working in education in DC, and was going through a tough time recently. And Mom said, oh, you know, the tough times, they'll come and go. Just enjoy and love the kids, which is absolutely apt for how she spent her time here. So I know she's impatient, wants me to move on with it. I'm going to say what she wrote to share with you tonight. I am so honored to be chosen for the Hall of Fame here at Stonewall Jackson. I would like to say a special thank you to Jeff Berner, Julie Wilkins, and Kathy Gangwer for all their hard work and kind words for this award. I've enjoyed this opportunity to reflect back to my time at Stonewall. I vividly remember moving to the area and starting to teach and coach in 1969, and I have great memories of all of my 39 years at school. I will forever be grateful to Pam Hardy for her knowledge and leadership as head basketball coach. I was so honored to work with her and learn from her, and we had the best time. The most important thing I remember was our secret to winning the basketball game. After school, we would drive to the drugstore, get a sandwich, drive back through the covered bridge in Men's Bottom. Usually if we lost, it's because we skipped going through the covered bridge part, and so we made sure to go through. I thoroughly enjoyed coaching each and every student that played on the teams. They each brought their unique skills, perspectives, and personalities, making every year dynamic and a new experience. Coaching Scholastic Bowl was another one of my favorite experiences. Again, I was grateful to have another great coaching partner with Adina McInturf. It was absolutely the most fun because of the clever, witty ways that students came up with answers. It always amazes me how gifted and creative kids are. We laughed and laughed. I have so many great memories from all of the practices, rides, and competitions, and I think what I'm most grateful for my experiences are the students and staff from Stonewall Jackson High School. I loved watching the students grow, getting to know the families, and seeing all of their successes. It is truly a community that is family to me. Thank you for honoring me and taking me on a trip down memory lane.
Now we'll start with the introductions of our athlete inductees. We'll start with Mr. John Wymer. John will be introducing Ms. Jennifer Estep.
I might use it, I might not. See if they can hear me. Let me see if you can hear me. Mr. Berner used to know he could hear me. Mr. Hutton was just up here and said he was here 50 years ago. I was with him 50 years ago. I came here with him as an assistant football coach, a head basketball coach, and an assistant track coach. I came here with another gentleman that's going to come up here, Mr. Bill Turner. He was an assistant football coach and an assistant track coach. I coached 2 years, maybe 3 years, as an assistant football coach. Coach Turner came to me, he says, Coach Wymer, why don't you quit coaching football and start up a cross-country program? I said, well, I think I'm doing a pretty good job. Well, we might need a cross-country program. Well, all those state titles, and if you go to the trophy case and look at all those state trophies, regional trophies, and district trophies, Coach Turner made me a pretty famous man. Thank you, Coach Turner. Anyway, I had some pretty daggone good kids here at Stonewall to put those state titles there and all those trophies in the trophy cases. And I'm going to honor one of those young athletes tonight that's going in the Hall of Fame as a one in the circle. She's a Mount Jackson girl. If you don't mind, last year I could barely walk to this place. I got me a dune buggy. I'm doing a little better, but not a whole lot. I'm going to try to talk loud so you can hear me. Can you hear me? All right. I don't like those things anyway. Mount Jackson girl. Whew. 30 years ago, she came to Stonewall, setting records, being all district, all region, all state. None of you athletes were even born. Maybe not even thought about. A lot of you parents, very young, 30 years ago, right? Anyway, you were in school probably, maybe late school. But Jennifer, she was starting to enter school in the middle school. And she was starting to play her games, entering into sports, middle school. But boy, she wasn't very big at all. Matter of fact, I don't know when she started to earn the name Jiffy Pop. When she got to us, she was still a Jiffy Pop. She played, and she loved to play the games. And I tried to think what it was when I started to get ready to talk about it. What did she have that made her different from all these other athletes that were up here tonight? I bet you when they played their games, they were the first ones chosen. Did they play baseball, basketball, or whatever? And I'm picking him. I'm picking her first. I'm picking, they're going to be on my team first. I bet Jiffy Pop wasn't first. I bet she was third, fourth, fifth, maybe even last. Didn't make her feel very good, but it made her play harder. But she had it. I called it when I started thinking about it. All these players that came up here have it, and some of them have it that's even bigger than others. And those that have it are the ones that move on and succeed, set records, make all district, and move on maybe even to play college sports. They have it. And we as coaches try to find those kids. We see it. We can pick it out. They stand out more than others. And Jiffy Pop, she stood out. It didn't take long. When she got to high school, she started picking out the sports that she wanted to do. She wanted to play them all, except cross country. She didn't want to run for me. She wanted to play volleyball. She wanted to play basketball most of all. And the only thing else was left was track. So she'd try that. When she started playing volleyball, she could walk underneath the net, not hit that. But she got good enough that she made all district as a volleyball player. And I come to find out tonight, which I didn't know, she went on to play volleyball on a college level. That's pretty daggone good. So she did well on the volleyball. Her game that she loved was basketball. But she wasn't very tall. But she could play and she could hustle. She made the she made the basketball team, and she played her heart out. And she became a defensive specialist. She didn't start. I don't think she might have not started very many games in her career. But when you needed a defensive player, Jiffy Pop went in and played her heart out. And she played her entire high school career as a defensive specialist. And if you watch basketball on TV, which I've been watching a lot here lately. Yeah, my team lost the other day. The Warriors, they lost. Anyway, she played defense, and she played all the way through her career. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But then it came to track. And track is where she really excelled. She came out with the first time in track. She went up with the sprinters. They said, I don't think you're going to be fast enough here. She went over to Coach Crow. Coach Crow says, well, at 4'10", 8, 6, I don't think you could high jump, long jump, triple jump. Won't you go over there? She went over to wherever I just didn't say, and they said, why don't you go over to Coach Wymer and the distance runners? So they sent her over there. I said, everybody comes with me. So everybody runs with the distance runners. I take everybody. So she started running with me, and it didn't take long for me to see that she had it. In the years that she ran with me on the distance team, she became all district. She became all region. She became all state. And she ended up her junior year, she became state champion in the 3,200 meters, which is quite an honor. State champion. She was the best her junior year in the 3,200. That means like the 2 mile in that time. If you go and walk by the plaque, the track plaque, where is it located? Right out here. Go around the hallway. You can still see her name on the track plaque. 1994. School record. 12 minutes, 6 seconds, 0.6. Holding the school record for the 3,200 meters. That's quite on. 30 years. Just got a little bit more. Let's go to her senior year. That's when all heck breaks loose. Notice I haven't said anything about cross country. But all of a sudden, Coach Wymer gets greedy. Coach Wymer had a pretty good cross-country girls team that year. All I needed was one person. I needed a 3,200 champion who was a senior. But Jennifer Estep wasn't going to run cross-country. She played basketball. Cross-country and girls basketball was the same season in the fall. And I said, Jennifer, how about running cross-country? You just play defense for Coach Smith's basketball team. She said, no. I said, well, what if I can pull some strings? Said, what any strings to pull? They do not allow an athlete to do 2 sports in the same season. Well, I tried to find some strings, and I accidentally found some strings, and we had to go through loophole after loophole after loophole. Had to go to the school board. Parents had to go to the school board. We had to go to the principal. We had to go everywhere and everywhere. I had the basketball coach on my side. I had me on my side. I had the parents on my side. Only thing I didn't have Coach Crow on my side. Woo, that was bad. I didn't have Coach Cubbage on my side. Woo, that was bad. When it was all over, though, had to find some way to mesh the two together. Last year, I had a young fellow that entered into the Hall of, what's that around there? Anyway, Mr. Fred Green. Remember I told you how he did everything for me? He was my assistant coach. We decided if it didn't interfere with basketball and she didn't miss any practices or any games, that she could do both. Coach Green would go to her house in the morning, and this is the it factor that she has. Coach Green would go to her house in the morning, and she would practice and do her workouts in the morning. Come home, get dressed for school, go to school. That evening after school, she would do her basketball workouts. On Wednesdays, she would go to cross-country meets. Tuesdays and Thursdays go to basketball games. That's the kind of it factor that she had. She did that season. When it came to the end of the year, we went down to Virginia Tech. She went with our team down to Virginia Tech, and we ran in the state cross-country meet, and through her help, through her we finished third. We didn't have a chance otherwise, but because of her, she was all-state, and we finished third. One of the trophies in the state championship trophy case is because of her. So I would like to bring her up at this time. Jennifer Estep, Jiffy Pop from Mount Jackson, the girl with the big if. There she is. Big head.
All right.
Are you going to give a speech?
I didn't make a speech, but I'll say a little bit. So, my time here at Stonewall, athletics was everything to me. That was my life, was athletics when I was here. And if I didn't have that, I don't know where I'd be. I feel like I got so many life lessons out of athletics, and it took me so many places. And the coaches that put so much time and effort into me, I appreciate everything they did. And I mean, you learn from sports patience, you learn work ethic, you learn teamwork. You take all those with you. And because of winning the state championship for the 2 mile, I got to go to Australia and run in a city to surf race with the world sports team. And I wouldn't have had that without the athletics here. So I just appreciate that they recognize me, and Stonewall was my home for so many years. I know it's Mountain View now, but it'll always be Stonewall to me. Thank you.
All right.
This time I ask Mr. Bill Turner, Coach Turner, to come up. He'll be introducing Mr. Jim Moore. Jim is not able to be with us. His brother John will be receiving the award tonight for Jim. Jim is overseas currently, but they're again joining us via Zoom.
Thank you, Coach, for inviting me to come. My wife said, "Don't be long." I don't think Max remembers, but for the couple of years that I was the athletic director here, I used to have to stand up and recognize students, and I was quite long-winded. So here are my notes. Let me tell you about Jim. Well, let me tell you about the Moore family. If you don't know about the Moore family, 4 boys, right? Johnny, 5 boys. Johnny played basketball and ran track and was supposed to play football, but my first year here with Coach Allison, I think he got kicked in the head swimming or something and couldn't play. And we were really disappointed because word was out that there were some colleges looking at him. Had a real good game when they were scouting the big Davis kid that was fullback. So, but Johnny, David, I don't remember all our names. Mike, yeah, and great athletes. All of them were great athletes. And Jimmy was the runner. He Ran cross country, John. Sorry about that, buddy. You were coaching football. I can remember he ran cross country, and he and his buddy that was really good, Kevin Runyon, they were kind of the leaders. And I got the wild idea. I was coaching football, but I was also kind of managing the cross country team. And I got the wild idea. I said, I tell you what, Tom, guys, do a little workout, and I'll say, all right, you guys, run home. Well, they did. Jimmy lived up on Rude's Hill. Kevin Runyon lived halfway to Luray. Wasn't quite fair. But what an athlete Jimmy was, and a great kid, and a great human being. He and Willie Pirtle got into it in the high jump at a home meet. And Willie, stand up. Where's Willie? Y'all know Willie? Given any day, he would have won that high jump competition. Julie, where's Julie? She was measuring, and they were jumping, and we had one of the few foam mats in the county, an actual mat. Jerry Dovel and Fred Amswaller bought that mat, remember, with a booster club. And guess what? It was about the size of this table here. And here's Julie standing on chairs, measuring the height of my two. Here. Willie would have to jump. We had to move the mat back over here, make sure he kind of halfway landed on it. Jimmy, he jumped. We come back, move the mat this way. So he didn't land on it. Well, the height went up. Willie, what'd you jump? 6'9"? 6'9", folks. Go home, measure 6'9". Jimmy beat him that day, cleared 6'10". Go home, measure 6'10". Julie measured it, didn't you? Had to stand on a chair, right? Jimmy also ran on our mile relay team, and we had a good men's track team that year, and probably deserved to win the state championship for the school. But the horses ran out of gas and had to pull a couple of them out of the events, because back then the single A meet was 1 day. How dumb is that? Been 2 days for how long? I don't know. Yeah, 10 or 12 years. Double A and Triple A, they still just have 3 divisions. 6 divisions. Well, anyway, they had 3 back then. Double A and Triple A were 2 days, and here's Single A. Oh, they're better athletes. They can handle a 1-day meet. Well, had to pull a couple of guys out of events so we have our mile relay team ready. Jimmy ran on that, and Willie ran on that. We had a good one. We had a really good mile relay team. But I can remember that the effort. John Wymer talked about the it factor. I'll tell you what, every one of you kids that came up here tonight had the it factor. Whether you win or lose, not that important. It's the effort that you put in preparation. That's the most important thing. My honor to present to John Moore, on behalf of his brother, the award membership to the Stonewall Jackson Mountain View Hall of Fame. Johnny. Congratulations.
You know, when I found out my brother was going to get this award, it made me reflect. You know, the day he did it, it was a point in time, and it was, wow, that is really cool. But then when you start to think about the fact that Stonewall, I think the first year of the school was 1959, he became, 20 years later, he became the greatest high jumper that Stonewall ever had. And 43 years later, he is the greatest high jumper Stonewall's ever had. And when you think in terms of the context of what that means, multiple generations have gone to this school, and we haven't had that kid yet who could do it. Now, I've heard there's some kids who think that they can do this, that they're going to beat 6'10", and I wish them luck, but you have to do the work that Jimmy did, and you have to be dedicated to doing that work. I will add one other thing. The Stonewall Jackson Relays. Did you start that, Coach Turner? Okay, so 1973, first year of the Stonewall Jackson Relays, it was a big deal. There were teams that came from all over to come to our relay. And in 1980, I came home. My wife and I were expecting our first child, and we came back to the Valley to see our family, to let them know that they were going to have their first grandchild. And the Stonewall Jackson Relay was happening that weekend. So I had a chance to come and watch Jim do this great feat that he accomplished. So I'm at the high school. I love track, and I ran track when I was in high school. Loved the sport, loved my brother, and time is going slowly because there's so many kids. So I go up to Jim, he's at the high jump area, and there are like 30 kids there. And I'm looking at the bar, and the bar's like here. And I went to Jim and I said, how much longer? He said they get 3 scratches. And I said, then how high do you think you'll jump today? He said, well, if I have it my way, I'm going to stop at 6'4". He said, there's just no real I can win it at 6'4". And I don't know what Willie was up to, but he may have been doing some other events. He was a great athlete. And he said, Coach Turner might make me do 6'6". So I was like, well, you've done 6'6"? He goes, yeah, I can do 6'6". He said, I'm not even jumping until it gets to 6. So I decided that I was going to meet a buddy at Chenvaly and play golf. So I go out there and I tee off, and I get to the 6th hole, which is a par 3 that runs right along the Chenvaly Road. And I teed off, and I didn't make the green. And I'm walking up, and a car comes flying down, screeching halt, and a kid jumps out, and he goes, are you John Moore? And I said, yeah. He said, your brother just jumped 6'10" and barely missed 7 feet. And I just picked my bag up, walked to the green, and kept playing. No, but I did. After that hole, I went home, and I was like, bro, I'm sorry. He goes, no big deal. He said, I can break that. I'm going to break 6'10" next week. So, but 43, you think in terms of 63 years have gone He's number one. He's number one in my heart. Very grateful to have him as my brother. It's meant a lot to me, and I love the Valley, and I'm always glad to come home.
Okay, good evening, and thank you. Coach Turner, thank you for that introduction. Greatly appreciated. First up, I'd like to thank the school and the selection committee for this great honor. We all good?
Yes.
You're good, can you hear me? Okay. Second, I'd like to thank John. Thanks, John, thanks for coming down and representing me tonight while I'm here in the East this week. Greatly appreciated. And as Coach Turner said, I was the youngest of five boys. I grew up in the era of some of General's greatest individual and team accomplishments. And by being the youngest, I got to see all my brothers do their magic on the field and on the court. John played with great basketball teams in the early 70s that was always going toe-to-toe with the Skyline District Championships against Gray and Madison County. My brother Mike set the record in the half mile, 2:01, which stood until my teammate Kevin Onion broke it when we were seniors. And then watching Mike catch Harry Jordan from Rappahannock County in the great mile relay race that they ran that set the school record, which still stands. And then my other brother, Dick, who played football, and I think on the same team with Wilkins. One year they only had 18 players. The band outnumbered the football players. But they went out and they competed every day, every week, and they displayed the grit, the determination, the pride, and the spirit that was the General. So all of those memories really instilled in me the desire to dream, set goals, and to work hard to try to achieve those goals. Thank goodness for Kevin Runyon, my classmate and teammate, when we were sophomores. He came up to me and said, "Hey, Jim, you have pretty good outdoor season. We're starting on a cross-country team with Coach Wymer. Because you're a better runner and jumper than you are a football player, so why don't you come run cross-country with us?" I was like, "Sure," so I would do that. Little did we know that we were going to be the start of a long line of individual team champions. So I thank Coach Wymer for taking that role on and creating a team atmosphere that was just a lot of fun. We put in a lot of work, but we had a lot of fun doing it. That year, 1977, we had a really strong team. But for us running a practice race, the Bryce Mountain Marathon, that team probably would have added another state championship trophy to the case. But unfortunately, we didn't. So Donnie and David Holt, the Holt brothers, who were strong runners, didn't get a chance to be part of the championship team. But they would have been on that championship team if Bryce Mountain Marathon hadn't caught us up. The following year, the 2018, we came back and redeemed ourselves. We easily, handily won the state cross-country team championship that year. And the 79 team was pretty good too. This one's less strong. And new coach Bob Arnold came in third, but there was only 6 points that separated the first place and the third place team. Unfortunately, like I said, the sophomore year we didn't win, but I kind of want to share the story because it's important to point out that sometimes life throws you an unexpected curve. So what do you have to do? You have to put your head down, get refocused, trust in yourself, trust in your teammates, trust and rely on your family. And then if you do that, you can continue on to pursue your dreams and achieve your dreams. I also had a bunch of other good athletes that competed in the time I was there. As you all heard, Willie Curlin. Willie set the bar high. Fortunately, he set the bar, jumped 6'8". He tied the state record. I remember that when he was a senior. I was fortunate to do the same thing when I was a senior. And then that one national day at Stonewall Jackson Relay, I hit 6'10". And that to me is a great memory that I just cherish with me for all my life. But what I'd like to do is really congratulate the athletes that are there now, in general. You are the current athletes, you are the legacy that's being carried on, the tradition of the generals of flying air. I want you to remember this, take this with you, because the things that you do today, some young boys, some young girls will see that, and then that's going to put it in their memory bank, something that you accomplished, and then they can set their goals based on what you're doing today. So you're building the legacy for the next generation. I'd like to leave you with this message that transcends athletics, and it really came from our mother, Virginia Moore, who was a teacher there at Stonewall for many, many years. And she would always tell us kids, true success is going out and competing every time and doing your best. Give it your all, be an inspiration to all, and that is true success. I'd also like to leave you with this. There was a general that once said, you may be whatever you resolve to be. And if you think and reflect upon those words, it really holds true. You may be whatever you resolve to be. So with that, I thank you. It's a great honor. Thank you very much.
Now for our final athlete introduction, I'll ask Mr. Roger Miller to come forward. He'll be introducing Mr. Cecil Rosen III.
Good evening. My name is Roger Miller. I'm here this evening to introduce and to tell you a little bit about Cecil Rosen, who will be inducted into your school's Hall of Fame tonight. Cecil was a member of the championship basketball team who won back-to-back championships in 1962 and 1963, and also went to the state semifinals in 1962. He also lettered in football and track. In the last 64 years since Stonewall's conception, there hasn't been but a few team sports or individual sports that has won back-to-back championships. There were 6 first-string players in that 2-year span, 1962 and 1963, that produced the championships. 3 of those players have already been elected into the school's Hall of Fame. With Cecil, there will be 4 out of the 6. As you know, 1 or 2 players do not produce championships in team sports. It takes all members working together. Cecil was a relentless rebounder, defender, and he always showed up offensively when the team needed it the most. Cecil grew up about a mile from here, where Route 11 turns onto Caverns Road. It's a 2-story house there and a barn, some sheds. It's where Cecil Rosen and Sons had their automobile tar and recap business, and later on moved up on Rude's Hill, where Holtzman has his business today. And why I'm telling you this is because Cecil turned that barn there on the corner into a basketball court in the early 60s. Him and some of the varsity players would come there on weekends, I guess year-round, and play 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, or however many showed up. I think certainly that helped Cecil and the team to be the best that we could be at that time. There are two other players that played pivotal roles on our team's success, namely Sonny False and Charlie Phillips, who have not been recognized as Hall of Fame members. I hope they will be considered down the road for that honor as well. Without Cecil's contributions on the basketball floor, it's doubtful we would have had the success that we did. And without saying any more, I'm going to bring Cecil up here, Cecil Rosen III.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the Hall of Fame people who made this happen. Thank you, Roger. I have a little different story to tell. By the way, it's been 60 years, almost to the day, since I graduated from Stonewall here. No, not in this, it was over there. And as Roger said, sports is always a big aspect in building character, the idea of competing, teamwork, all those things are very, very important. But I'm going to share my experience with you from a little different perspective. After graduation, I was lucky enough to go to UVA. And after coming off these 2 years that he talked about, actually 3 years I remember, but we didn't win the championship, but 2, excuse me. I was determined to play basketball at UVA. Well, we go out, starting in September, I went to the gym every day and played against the varsity and asked for the aspiring freshmen that were on board. And it was incredible seeing the people from all over the state and over a large part of the country wanting to do the same thing. It was very different, very tough competition. We had 3 people over 7 feet show up for the tryouts of the freshman team. Fortunately, none of them made it, but there was a 6'10", 300-pounder that ended up being our center. During the tryouts, I wore out 4 pair of Converse sneakers just in that period. Wore out the ball of the foot from having to, as Roger said, defense was one thing I took very, very seriously, and everybody played man-to-man, and I took great pride in my defensive skills. I made the team, barely, but I got injured early on, actually the first scrimmage, and had to take a break. But during that break, I had the time to reflect, and this is the part that tells a different kind of story. My grades in engineering were suffering due to what basketball took out of me. When I went down to the gym every day to try to get myself on a par with the people I was competing with, by the time I got back to the room, I couldn't do anything. I was too tired. So the other factor that I had to think about, that only 15 to 20%, 1 in 5 or 6, would graduate from engineering that started. So if I look around and there's 5 or 6 people sitting next to me, only one of us is going to graduate. The rest of us are going to transfer to something less difficult, or we're going to move out of the school. So at that point in time, I reflected on what my principal and guidance counselor had told me, that I had set my sights too high, that this was something I really couldn't achieve. And I was determined that I wanted to do this because from a very early age, and nobody believes this story when I tell them, but about 12, the age of 12, I decided that was the era when jet engines were becoming a big part of air and military, air travel and military. And I wanted to design jet engines, and I wanted to design jet engines for the best, Pratt & Whitney aircraft. So in my rational mind, as I stepped back, looked at the other players, looked at what happened, I decided that I wasn't going to be a basketball player very long, even if I was lucky. So I decided I was going to choose engineering. The rest of my years at UVA were challenging, but very successful. I graduated with a degree in aerospace engineering with distinction and with a minor in mechanical engineering. To me, that was a hell of an accomplishment. Before graduation, I applied to several government labs and companies, and I was ecstatic when I got that notice from Pratt & Whitney Aircraft that they wanted me to come work for them. So I went to Pratt and had a great time, a great experience. I actually got to be project engineer on the PW 2037 that powers the Boeing 757 today. Next, after 10 years at Pratt, I got an exciting offer from NASA. Just kind of, it was almost accidental, but not just NASA, NASA headquarters no less, to run a major technology program to develop technology for the next generation of commercial aircraft. So I decided I was going to take that. Pratt & Whitney supported it. In my mind, I thought I was going to stay in the government and NASA for 2 or 3 years, and I was going to go back to a senior executive position at Pratt. Well, the challenges and opportunities were too exciting, as many of you know about NASA. And I stayed for 15 years. And I had some great times and great jobs there and very fond memories. Then unexpectedly, I got an offer to go work for the CIA in the National Reconnaissance business, which is something that was very different, but I had had some experience in the stealth aircraft business, and that gave me kind of the creds to go and work in that highly classified environment. I was there about 10 years, and I'm not going to tell you anything about what I did. Next, I was very interesting thing. I was offered an opportunity to work with the president of Disney Imagineering and the chief engineer of Disney Imagineering, who had actually invented supercomputing, more or less, to join them in starting a new company, Applied Minds. I'd never started a company. I'd worked in the private sector for 10 years, but no experience starting a company. This was an entirely new idea for me, or new adventure. We called it the Little Big Idea Company, and it was a great experience. Well, after about 4 years, I had another calling. As you might figure out by now, up until this time, I've had a very fortunate life and career. And my wife, Karen, and I had 2 wonderful sons, Jeffrey and Michael. Karen had her doctorate by now and was a professor then at Virginia Tech. Both sons had graduated from UVA, but you know, life has a way of giving us unexpected challenges, especially when things are going well. Karen was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of brain cancer and was given 6 months to live. And after pondering over this for probably less than a week, I decided I wanted to quit work and take care of her, which I did. And even after I quit work, it took me 2 to 3 months to convince Karen that this is what I really wanted to do. And she finally got it. Luckily, I was able to be her caregiver and her medical advocate for 4 long years, the most meaningful and fulfilling job I ever had. Not long after her passing, I was contacted about our upcoming 45th class reunion. Well, I had no intention of going. This was out of the question at this point in my life and what I was going through. My dad was also ill, and I happened to be visiting him when I got a last-minute call from a member of the planning group for the reunion, encouraging me to stop by, and the event was that night at, everybody knows, Southern Kitchen in New Market. I guess you probably don't do that anymore. I was reminded that my classmates both loved me and supported me, and that I should be there. So I appreciated that. I took it to heart, and I did stop by. And I had a short evening, but it was distracting and pleasant. As a result, though, later I connected with one of my classmates who had also lost her spouse to cancer, Diane Benson. Diane and I had known each other since first grade. We went through first grade all the way through 12. We had never dated, ran with the same group of friends, had only seen each other at our 25th and 45th high school reunion. To make a long story short, Diane Benson is now Diane Benson Rosen. Diane had no children, no siblings. She now, happily, is a loving stepmom to Jeff and Mike, and a loving grandmother to their 5 children, our grandchildren. So, bottom line, takeaway, I cannot be more grateful for my sports life, my life in general, and my career. 3 messages: follow your dreams, listen to your heart, go to your high school reunions. Thank you very much.